Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and now we have a running and driving Rockstar. We need to start doing some fine tuning. Alright guys, those of you who were watching last week will have seen that I finally got the Rockstar running. It's running and driving. I took it for a quick lap up and down the street and it actually works, but there are definitely a few teething problems that I need to sort through. There's a list. The accelerator pedal is too high. The brake pedal is sticking, and that's an issue that was a bit of a problem before even the engine conversion. And it's way too loud. So I've got to do something about that, and also it needs a cover over the engine. The engine is currently completely open in the back of the car, which is not a good thing. So we need to do something about all of those bits and pieces in hopefully in this episode. So if you missed it, I'll put a link up above so you can catch up to where we are. And please think about subscribing. It does help us out. First up, I think it might be time to have a look at the engine cover. So as you can see here, this is the original engine cover, and now it's not going to fit because the engine, particularly the back, is too high. The front actually might go close to fitting, but the back definitely not. So what I'm thinking is the easiest way is going to be actually to retain this cover, but I'm going to build a panel that sort of clips in underneath that acts as the new cover for the engine. All right, I'm reasonably happy with that result. That's going to do the job nicely. So it's not the prettiest, but basically you just saw I just sort of cut a flap out of the original cover. Got some of this aluminium sheet, it's really thin aluminium sheet, so it's pretty easy to manipulate and just bend and fold and rivet in all the way around. It's got the foam lining, so it sort of seals it up quite nicely in there. And all I need to do now is just trim out this heat shield, and then the heat shield can go back in, and I think we're good to go. So that was probably easier than I expected. Okay, so the engine cover is now fitted up, so that's another job marked off the list. All right, so next job is to fix that pedal. It's currently far too high, so I need to take it out. And another thing that I didn't actually put in when I put the pedal in was a pedal stop. So at the moment, you hit the end of the accelerator pedal, and you can actually, if you push harder, you'll actually flex the pedal on the mountain you're pushing against, so there's nothing stopping the pedal. So I need to do both of those things, but first things first, let's see if I can get it in a better position. All right, it's too hard to film down in the footwell, but I've had a look and I've sort of worked it out. There's a way I can tilt the base of the pedal. Basically, the bottom is fixed, but it's sort of welded onto the car, and there's enough flexibility when you unbolt the top end to be able to move the pedal mount down. And all I've done is I've just made a just a spacer. This is a 1.6mm plate that will hold the pedal, and this is under tension, not under compression, so this should be more than fine. And basically all I've done is I've just got a couple of holes here to try different adjustments, but instead of bolting it firmly through where the top hole would normally be, I can bolt this to the top hole, bend the bracket down and bolt it into the second hole, and that will move the pedal, hopefully, into a better position. So let's bolt it in and see if the pedal is in a better spot. All right, that pedal is in a much better position now. So positioning I have sorted, but I still need to make a stop underneath. So let's have a bit of a look at what I'm going to do there. All right, so I built myself a pedal stop. So I welded a captive nut on the back. There's a bolt going through that is actually the stop, and then a locking nut on top. So I'm going to fit this in now, and hopefully it should be the exact right size to do the job. She works. All right, so my next task is, my exhaust, as I mentioned before, is way too loud. So what I'm going to do is I've gone through my scrap pile, and this is actually the exhaust, the switchable exhaust that didn't actually work as a switchable exhaust that I built for Harry, my 911, and it didn't work. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. It didn't do what I intended it to do. So this, I think, is, I can reuse these mufflers. They're the same. I think they're 2.5 inch. I think this exhaust is 2.25 inch. They're around the same size anyway. That I can actually reutilize these mufflers, sort of, to do the job. I actually butchered them so that they ran straight through on one side. Basically, these mufflers were set up so that they originally entered on one side and did an S and then exited on the opposite diagonal, opposite corner. And what I did is I opened up one end because I was hoping that the exhaust would come straight through and open a valve. So just through one pass through the muffler would make it louder than the 3 pass, and you could switch it between. Opening this, closing this would mean it'd join up and go out the back. It didn't work. It was quiet on both operations. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to block up the S part of it and just run it so that it runs straight through the exhaust. So the exhaust is just going to go straight through and straight out. It's a big muffler, it's 2 big mufflers, so it should quieten it down quite a bit. It may be more than what I want, but again, it's not the ideal exhaust, but it's free. It's here, it's sitting here, it's something that I spent money on, and I don't have to go and spend money again buying new mufflers specifically for this purpose. So let's start cutting this up now and mounting mufflers into my current V8 exhaust. All right, so you saw me then. I've gone through and mounted in my new mufflers. Look, it's definitely not the prettiest of exhausts, but it's definitely going to do the job. It is race car. Doesn't have to be the prettiest thing in the world. It's just got to work. I blocked up the other end, so basically this is just using it as a straight through muffler now. And the next thing I want to do before I put it back in the car is I'm going to use some of this Raceworks titanium exhaust wrap. When I fitted it up, I actually went through and changed the direction it actually travels a little bit more, so that I've actually got a bit more clearance with shifter cables and stuff like that. So it's got a bit more space, but I do want to still protect all that sort of stuff in there. So a bit of exhaust wrap is a good thing. This stuff does not need to be wet first. It's designed so it doesn't have to be wet, because often with exhaust wraps you would wet it first. So I'm going to go through and wrap this now, and it will make it look a little bit better than it currently does, and then we can sort of move forward. All right, the wrap is looking very nice. It's just secured at both ends with the stainless steel cable ties, and yeah, and I've just made sure I wrapped it nice and tight where it goes from big down to smaller. I found it's better to start on the bigger side, like particularly I found the same on Harry when I did that when it branched out. Going smaller means you can overlap and sort of pull any loose fabric in. As you get in, if you do it the other way, you'll have all these sort of loose lips. Loose lip sink ships. So anyway, that's all done. So let's get it back in the car. But first off, I'm going to trim my gearbox mount just a little bit, just to give us a little bit more clearance in there for the new exhaust. All right, it's not the prettiest system in the world, but we have mufflers on the car. We have a lot more clearance up here with the shift cables, and we've got some heat wrap now. Because I trimmed this off, there's a fair bit more sort of clearance all the way through. Same on this side, there's a bit more clearance now, and the heat wrap is definitely making a big difference. So I've also added extra mounts on the back edge here on both sides to hold the weight of the muffler, so it's not just hanging off the headers. So now it's time to drop the car down and see what it sounds like. Exhaust is quieter, but that squeal is horrible. That's much better. Still sounds good, but it's not too loud. All right, well, that exhaust sounds so much better. It's not as meaty as it was before. That was really good, but it's a lot more restrained. It's definitely going to pass the sound levels on the track now, so I don't need to be worried about that, but it sounds good. The slipping belt, it appears to be the alternator. I was looking at all the other belts, all the other pulleys are moving. The alternator is what's stopping, so maybe the alternator is on its way out. I'm going to have a little bit more of a look. I might try and see if I can sort of lubricate the inside of the alternator a bit more. I put a bit of sort of some spray on the belt to try and sort of get it to grip up a bit more. So we'll just see for the time being, but at the moment, it sounds much better. Okay, so I think it's time for another quick test drive. See how it's performing now. Definitely sounding a lot more civil. Still sounds good, but not quite as as crazy as it was. Oh, sounds good. Feels like the engine's moving around a bit or something. Something doesn't feel quite right. When I accelerate, it feels like the back of the car sort of moves a little bit. Yeah, there's something not right with that pedal either. That brake pedal is still not good. But it works, and that was going a bit, definitely a bit harder than I went last time. Sounding good. Exhaust is sorted, pedal sorted. We're getting there. I haven't got the seal very good in the back there. I can see the smoke coming off. Obviously things are sort of fresh and new, so they're not perfect, but it works. It's getting better every single time I take it out. The yeah, that exhaust is 100 times better than it was before. Much happier with that. Yeah, look, I think it's a goer. All right, well, we're getting there. I've just gone through the log that I just took. Looks like there's a fuel cut. I have to have a look. Looks like there's a rev limiter on it to about 4,000 RPM, I think, which is what I was cutting out at then. So that's why that was happening. But besides that, it sounded good. Looks like it's probably a bit rich at the moment, but that's nice and safe. Something's smelling a lot. There's nothing dripping out of it, which is a good thing. But yeah, there's some smells and stuff. Obviously, you know, there's things that are going to bed in. The feel of the engine, I've got to double check, see those engine mounts or something, because it feels like things are moving around when I get on the accelerator. It feels like it sort of twists, and then as I accelerate, and then back off. And yeah, so that's not quite right. So there's still teething problems, but the torque off the line is so much more than it ever had before. You know, even at those relatively low revs, we're getting better. We're getting better all the time, just chipping away, chipping away. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video and this crazy series on the Rockster, please do the usual, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. You can join us on Patreon to watch the videos a day early, ad-free. And if you need parts for any of your Porsches, even if they are crazy V8 swapped Rocksters, you can find them on PorschePartsByJeff.com. At least compare prices there first. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one.